Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Frosthaven as compared to Gloomhaven. Now, I'm not a massively strong person. That is a full copy of Gloomhaven, but this is just the lid of Frosthaven. So, Frosthaven is a much heavier game than Gloomhaven. I mean that in size of the box. So, it's about 1.5 inches taller. You can see here. A little bit taller. Actually, it's a little taller than that. It's about there, maybe 2 inches taller. It is the same dimensions other than that, though. But what I'm going to do in this video, in a separate video, I'm reviewing Frosthaven as a game by itself. And there's a lot going on in it. In fact, my overview is going to be a pretty high-level one. But if you're a Gloomhaven player, I'm assuming you're watching this because of that, and you're wondering, hey, I haven't bothered finishing Gloomhaven, or maybe you have. But I want to play Frosthaven. What's the difference? Is Frosthaven Gloomhaven 1.5 or 2.0? So I think Frosthaven is kind of a 1.75 of Gloomhaven. And I'm going to talk a little bit about comparisons between them. So let's start, first of all, with the amount of content. There is much more content in Frosthaven. First of all, the different event cards that you come across that were in Gloomhaven. There were city events and things. Here in Frosthaven, so in Gloomhaven, there's some interesting, sometimes you'll come across identical events that will have different outcomes and you're not very sure. Like, oh, do I eat these berries or not eat these berries? I don't know. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. In Frosthaven, they not only made all the cards different, as far as I can tell, but they seem longer and more in depth. The stories are longer and more in depth. The amount of writing in Frosthaven seems to be, and I'm just kind of spitballing a guess here, twice as much as Gloomhaven. Gloomhaven had a lot of different things going on. There's a lot of content, but it seems like there's a lot more in Frosthaven. And in fact, you know, the scenario book and the section book combined seem to be double what you're getting in Gloomhaven. Frosthaven just has a ton more stuff. Now, it seems to have about the same amount of characters. It seems to have about the same amount of monsters and things involved in that. But man, I got to tell you that it just feels like a much huger game in many different ways. And I liked it. I think the writing is better in Frosthaven. I think it has a much stronger storyline. You get into it and you find a battle, and I can't really tell you more without getting into it. You make a very major decision very early on in Frosthaven that's going to change some of the things that you do and how you're going to progress from that point onward, and I think that's really neat. I mean, there's a pretty major decision in Gloomhaven that you make fairly early on too, so I guess I remember that too. But Frosthaven just has more. Now, some of you are like, more? I've already played Gloomhaven for years and, you know, I don't need more content. Well, that's up to you. But I think that Frosthaven wins on the frosty, Gloomhaven's a bustling city. Frosthaven is a young, scampy outpost that you're going to, and you're going to build up as time goes by. Characters. So the characters and the difficulty of Frosthaven as compared to Gloomhaven. I was amused because Frosthaven has characters and they tell you how difficult they are. Like, you have 6 starting characters that you can pick from, and like 2 of them are like easy, 2 of them medium, 2 of them hard. The hard ones are really hard. One of them has 2 hands of cards that you're jumping back and forth between. The medium, the easy one, so like one of them just has a lot of different tracks. It's really fun. Another one has to have characters in a very certain spot. I don't know that I think any of the characters were as easy as I think some of the characters in Gloomhaven. But that being said, they seem even more diverse than Gloomhaven. There's so many characters now between Gloomhaven, Jaws of Lion, and Frosthaven, and you can kind of mix them back. But wow, I was like, what new ideas can they come up with? They definitely came up with new ideas in Frosthaven. These characters are amazing. I mean, some of the characters you unlock are really awesome, but the 6 starting characters, I have a hard time picking which one. Do I want to pick the one that's summoning skeletons and stuff? Well, that's fun. Do I want to pick the one with all those tracks? I like tracks in games. You know, the Inox Drifter, I really enjoy that one. The one with the 2 different hands of cards, the one that's like drawing on the power of death. That's really cool stuff. And then the other ones that you lock are even cooler, and I'm having fun with that. But This is a big change in Gloomhaven, and I guess this is kind of a minor spoiler. I don't mean it to be really, but in Gloomhaven, your characters retire after a long time of playing. And you're like, oh, I was so attached to my character. He's like powerful now. Now he retires and you get a new character. That's not how it works in Frosthaven. In Frosthaven, when you retire, you get a new building for the Frosthaven. We'll talk about that in a bit. But the other characters you meet in different ways. So it's not through retirement that you meet other characters. And you meet characters earlier than you will think. I run across characters, I did something I wasn't expecting. Like, and now you have a new character. I was like, really? Well, I'm glad I made that decision. You know, if I go play Frosthaven again, I'll be like, guys, I want to do this. I'm not telling you why. Because I think it's just fun to have different characters to pick from. And I found that part of the game to be really cool because you get that extra character content more quickly. Difficulty. I think Frosthaven's harder than Gloomhaven. I don't even know that I think that it's close. I think Gloomhaven is a hard game as is. I think Frosthaven is hard. I think part of that might be, this is just me guessing, that when people play Gloomhaven and then they're really good at the game, they play Frosthaven and you get really good at the game. And I worry about the entry barrier for someone coming into Frosthaven for the first time and just getting overwhelmed because you can lose in the first scenario. I mean, you not lose, well, I'm not going to try to spoil that, but you can definitely get your butt kicked if you don't know what's going on. And I think I would not recommend Frosthaven starting out to anyone. I would probably recommend play Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion, which is a nice way to teach the game, and then you can come play Frosthaven. Because in Frosthaven, not only are you going to learn to play these characters and stuff, but the monsters are really hard. They're really tough. They hit like all get out. They're beating on you. And the characters are a little trickier to learn. I mean, once you do learn them, they're very powerful and cool, but keep that in mind. One huge thing, well, maybe it's not huge to you all, but a big difference for me from Frosthaven to Gloomhaven is in Frosthaven, you have standees for the things that you summon. In Gloomhaven, they're like these round discs, which, these are summon things. Here, if you're the necromancer and you summon skeletons, it comes with little skeletons for you to summon. This is a minor thing, but it's something that for me, I just really like that. I like that when you get these characters, you have everything you need for them. You have the miniatures for the heroes. You have the standees if you want, and then you have the standees for other things. And I like that a lot. I thought that kind of rounded out the characters. Also, the characters have something new on them, which are called masteries. So in masteries, what you're doing is, when you play the original game and you got your perks from doing a challenge during a scenario. Oh, go through the scenario without doing a long rest. Fine, I do that, and you get some check marks. You get enough check marks, you get perks. But now you can get a perk from doing other things. So, for example, the Bone Shifter, who's someone who summons creatures, if they kill at least 15 of their summons during a scenario, which is pretty hard to do, they get a mastery, which is a check and gives you a free perk. So each person has that. Like the guy who shifts back and forth between two different hands has one that if you shift back and forth every turn of the scenario, then you get a free perk. That's really hard to do. I pulled it off, though. I was very proud of myself. It doesn't actually make you playing through the scenario maybe optimal, but there's different ways to get perks. And like I said, I think and also the perks on these characters that you can do and upgrade with things, I felt that they were more involved and very different than the original one. So Gloomhaven, again, the characters in Gloomhaven, all very different, all very cool, but Frosthaven takes that and expounds on it even more. But adding to that, a very high level of difficulty. Another level of difficulty is Frosthaven, to me, has a lot more escape room-esque stuff in it. Puzzles, things to figure out. There was one scenario, and that was designed by David Turtsey, so I'm going to keep that one in mind, that I could not solve the puzzle in. And I feel like I'm pretty decent at this kind of thing, and it just didn't work for me. It still bugs me. I don't know how to find a solution to that puzzle. There was an alternate thing I could do, but keep in mind there are puzzles in this game, and this section book has a lot of that. Section book! So Frosthaven comes with a scenario book just like Gloomhaven. But Frosthaven doesn't show you the entire scenario. So in episode 0, they just show you one room here. when you open the door, it will tell you to go to a specific section in this book, which shows you the rest of that scenario. That's really cool for a couple things. One, it keeps you from seeing all the scenario at one time. When you go through here, you don't know what, you can see the whole map layout, but you don't know what's there. I've gotten used to that because I've been playing Gloomhaven on Steam, and in Gloomhaven on Steam, you don't see all the monsters, you don't see everything at once. So this keeps some of that hidden in this book. But this book has much more than that. There are lots of just different events in here and stories in this book. This has hundreds of different sections that it's going to go to, and sometimes you just go to a section here based on an event card that you pulled up rather than coming from the scenario book. But like I said, when you combine these, there's just tons and tons of content in the game. I think Frosthaven's harder to store than Gloomhaven because of all this extra stuff that's in there. There's extra cards and all sorts of things. You have more different types of items, and there are different storage solutions. I don't know that I love any of the storage solutions at this point in time, but also I don't know that the best solution for Frosthaven, storage-wise, is to get a gaming table and leave it set up or something to that effect. All right, stickers. So Gloomhaven came with little stickers, and you put those stickers on the board, and then people made reusable stickers, and I was like, are you kidding me? First of all, who cares? They're just little stickers on the board. There are also stickers that you put on cards. I realized that, but it seemed to me like buying a recharge kit for Gloomhaven. First of all, how many people are playing through Gloomhaven twice? Yes, I know, person who's going to put in the comments, I have, but most people haven't. This game, though, is much more than that. When you put the stickers on, so one of the things that Frosthaven does is it has these boards here, and these are your scenarios. There's a scenario 83, 84, the 87 unlocks 88. Sometimes a scenario will unlock multiple ones, and you rip these out, and there's a sticker on it, and you'll put the sticker on the board, but these are big stickers. There are also other stickers that you're going to be building up the outpost of Frosthaven. These are also big stickers. You're going to really stick up your board. You're putting stickers on your sheet of paper, keeping track of your party going through. That's some pretty big stuff. So, yeah, this game is not really replayable. I suppose there's a recharge pack of stickers that you'll be able to get and all, but you're going to have to get a new board. But again, I really think we're talking 200 plus hours of content. I really think you're going to get your money's worth out of this one. But be forewarned, there are a lot of different stickers. Okay, well, I've been dancing around the biggest change in Frosthaven, and I really want to talk about that. But before I talk about the biggest change, which is the outpost phase, I want to talk about the loot in this game, because I think this is my personal favorite change from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven. There is now a loot deck. In Gloomhaven, there would be gold laying around on the floor. When you kill enemies, they drop gold, and then you have to use loot actions and things to pick up that gold. And a very weird, I'll always argue that it makes no thematic sense that if you don't do it before the scenario ends, you don't get it. But whatever. This changes that. At the beginning of a scenario in Frosthaven, you build a loot deck. You're going to put in a certain amount of cards, a certain amount of wood cards, a certain amount of iron cards, a certain amount of herb cards, a certain amount of money cards for gold. You shuffle this loot deck. There's loot tokens on the board, and when you kill an enemy, they drop a loot token. You get a loot token, you draw a top card of that deck, which will say, hey, you got 2 wood. Hey, you got 3 gold. Hey, you found this herb. That's really different, and it makes going through that loot deck really awesome. In fact, sometimes the loot deck can even have a unique thing in it. That's awesome. So the loot deck is more fun. At the end of a scenario, you take these resources that you've gotten, and you are going to, you can craft items with them. You can donate them to the party to help build buildings. And as you build buildings and your outpost gets better, there's things that you can do with that. But you have this loot, man, I just love it. It just makes looting that much more fun. Although sometimes I also may have lost scenarios because we got so caught up in the looting. The town, the outpost phase. So you have an outpost on the board, and that outpost can have, these are some stickers of buildings that can build the outpost up. The outpost is going to be attacked occasionally, which I found to be not as interesting to me. It's a whole little mini game, but it's not that for me, the attacking wasn't an interesting mini game. But the bigger, and it's not really a mini game, of building up the outpost, that part I find fascinating. When you get to the outpost, there's 4 buildings. Each of those buildings lets you do different things. One of them lets you take those herbs that you found. You've put 2 herbs together, you pull off a little tab here, it tells you what potion you've made. You can upgrade that building to then make potions out of 3 ingredients. And that's just one of the buildings. Another building lets you take items you've had and different materials you found and craft them together to make items. Another, you can build up the walls to help with your defense. You can build up the barracks so that you can have more soldiers come in to help defend. You can build boats and sleds and things so that you can go on different spots here. There's a whole key on the back of this, and some of these things you can't go there. Like this says a ship. I can't go maybe across this line to this one because I need a ship. But once you built the ship, you can then do so. And you're building your town up, and as you build the town up, it's going to give you different actions. The outpost phase is not as long as a scenario phase. So think of the outpost phase as maybe half hour. Now, I know that when I played Gloomhaven, when I was done, and you go back to Gloomhaven, you get to level up, and if possible, you can check off your perks, you can go to the store. There's a few things you can do, and there's a town event. And that's cool. That's actually one of my favorite parts of Gloomhaven. Frosthaven takes that and quadruples it. There's that much more stuff, especially as you build more buildings, and there's things go on. The outpost events, they're like the town events in Gloomhaven, are that much more involved, especially if there's an attack. There's all kinds of things happening. You as a group are deciding which buildings to build up. You have a lot of options. You're going to be able to build buildings. Buildings might get destroyed and you have to repair them. And I found this to be a really cool, fun part of the game. It does add another layer of rules, okay? There's a lot of stuff in Frosthaven. And speaking of the rulebook here, which is an 82-page rulebook, in the rulebook, there are different spots that have a little snowflake next to them, and they're like, this is only for Frosthaven. So if you've played Gloomhaven, you can just read those snowflakes. And as I was going through the rules, I was like, there's a lot of these snowflakes. And I'm reading, and at one point, let's see what page it was on, because I was very much amused by this. It's somewhere on the page like of 56 or something. They're like, you know what? We're going to stop putting out these snowflakes. Yeah, here it is on page 49. They're like, the remainder of the rulebook does not contain any blue text. From this point onward, all rules should be considered new to Frosthaven. That's page 49 out of a, what did I say it was? An 82-page rulebook. There's a lot of rules that are just Frosthaven. There's a lot of stuff going on in this, and that outpost phase takes up a lot of stuff. I think, though, that is an excellent addition to the game. I think the outpost phase adds a lot to Frosthaven and gave me some ownership in my outpost, while Gloomhaven felt like a city that I was in. I was like, oh, you know, this is a big city going on and things are happening. Frosthaven is my town. That's what I felt like while playing this. It's longer. It's longer than Gloomhaven, for sure, I think. I wouldn't be able to sit down and do the exact counts of it and all. But there's, like I said, a lot of that's because of more content. So, if you've never played either one before, you probably should get Gloomhaven. I'm not saying that Gloomhaven is better. I think Frosthaven is better than Gloomhaven, but there's just less rules overhead. Or, like I said at the beginning, get Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. That was a game that's like a beginner's Gloomhaven. Beginners, I gotta be careful because it's still a full game. Play through Jaws of the Lion. That's a much shorter experience. And then you could jump straight to Frosthaven. And you would still have to learn a whole lot more rules. But this is huge. It's big. It's grandiose. I really like Frosthaven. I like Gloomhaven, but I like Frosthaven better. Now, Gloomhaven was at one point my favorite game. I've cooled on it a bit. It's still my top games of all time, okay? I'm just saying, just a bit, because of the amount of effort it requires from me to play. Frosthaven requires that same and more effort to play. There's a lot going on in this. I've gotten used to playing Gloomhaven on the Steam, and it does a lot of the bookkeeping for you. Frosthaven has even more bookkeeping, and I found that as I played Frosthaven solo, I played it both multiplayer and solo, I found with solo, I had to really sit and think. I was like, I'll just kind of skim through and play a lot of this stuff very easily. I found that I really had to put a lot of effort into keeping track of what was going on and everything, because there's so much going on. But if you are willing to put that effort into Frosthaven, you're going to find an amazingly fantastic, fun game. So those are my thoughts on Gloomhaven compared to Frosthaven. There are more differences and things. You draw 3 cards when you would pick a challenge rather than 2. That was a small change from Gloomhaven to Frosthaven. There are different things that happen in Gloomhaven might happen at a different time in Frosthaven. I don't know. There's lots of cool things in it, but again, if you know how to play Gloomhaven, it will take you another 30 minutes to learn the new things for Frosthaven, or maybe a little bit more than that. But you're going to have a lot of fun with it. So those are my comparisons. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching The Dice Tower.